Hello everyone. So this is the second part of the chapter International Organizations. In the previous part, in part 1, I have discussed about how the United Nations was formed, its principles, its principles, purpose, objectives, aims, and the principal organs of United Nations, their structure, their powers, their functions. Okay, so now in this part, I'm going to discuss one very important thing, that is reform of the United Nations. It's a six marker that is asked from this chapter. So, what kind of reforms are being asked, and why these reforms are being demanded in the United Nations? The various aspects of it, various dimensions of this issue, I'm going to discuss in this video. So, let's begin. Why these reforms are being asked? Number one thing, because the world realities have changed after the Cold War. So the Cold War ended in the year 1991 with the collapse of USSR. So USSR collapsed, and with the collapse of USSR, the entire world, the political dimensions changed completely. Number one thing that happened was that US became the sole superpower. Okay, so there is one superpower in the world right now, and that is USA. Number two thing, that relationship between Russia and USA changed. During the Cold War, USSR and US were in conflict with each other. A Cold War was going on, and that's why both were contradicting each other, and both were balancing each other's power. And UN used to be the main structure through which they tried to balance the power of the other country. Okay, now after the end of the Cold War, how UN is going to function? The role of the UN has become more important because now it became more useful. Earlier, during the Cold War, UN was not able to function well because of the deadlock between the two superpowers. Now that deadlock no longer exists. That is why it was expected to work more efficiently. Third thing is that many new powers are emerging, and if we see the Asian region, China and India is fast emerging as a great power. The economies of Asia are growing at a very fast rate, and when I say economies of Asia, I specifically mean the Southeast Asian countries, all those countries which are member of the ASEAN, and other countries in the region also growing well at a very fast rate. Okay, now many post-Soviet countries means those countries which became independent after the collapse of the USSR, they have also joined the United Nations. A whole new set of challenge confront the world today. A few among them are genocide, civil war, ethnic conflict. Almost all the countries are facing this. Terrorism, the the most serious problem at present, nuclear proliferation. More and more countries are acquiring nuclear capability at present, and they are going nuclear. To name a few, Pakistan, India, Iran, they already have acquired nuclear power. So it's not that, see, when the United Nations was formed, only five powers were the nuclear powers. Now, many countries have acquired that nuclear capability. Climate change, this is the biggest environmental danger threat at present. And because of this, many new problems are arising. Epidemics, many diseases, and you have the present pandemic in front of you, COVID-19. So these are all special problems, unique problems, a new set of problems that the world is facing now. And that is why the United Nations has also to change its processes, to change its structure in order to make itself more efficient to tackle with these problems, to deal with these problems. So when did the talk of these reforms started? The talks started in 1992 when the UN General Assembly, it adopted a resolution three main components of the resolution was that the first is the Security Council no longer represent the contemporary political realities. See, at the time when the United Nations was formed, the Security Council gave permanent status to 5 countries. Okay, so if you remember, Security Council is comprising of 15 members, out of which 5 are permanent, which are called P5, and 10 non-permanent. Okay, now those countries which were the biggest power at that time were given the status of P5, of the permanent 5. Now at present, there are many countries which have become very powerful. Okay, so this reality of the world should also get reflected in the Security Council, which is not happening. So first point was this. Second point which was raised was that the decisions of the United Nations reflect only the Western values and interests and is dominated by the few powers. That means the Western powers, the developed countries are dominating all the decisions in the Security Council. Okay, and third thing, it lacks equitable representation, and by equitable representation we mean the representation in the Security Council only, because if you see General Assembly, in General Assembly all the countries are represented and each country has one vote also. But in the Security Council, only 5 countries are there as permanent members. 10 countries get the status of non-permanent members, that too only for 2 years. And then the 5 countries do have special powers like veto power. Okay, so this United Nations does not reflect a democratic structure. The decision making does not reflect democracy at world level. This is the main problem that was raised. These problems were raised, and then reforms were asked suitably in the United Nations. Okay, so 2 areas of reforms are there, and these 2 areas of reforms are, first, the reforms of structures and processes. See, structures means that different organs of the United Nations, how they are formed. Okay, so there can be an expansion in their membership. If they do not represent the present realities, the membership of these organs can be expanded. Okay, and the reforms of processes means how the decisions are being taken. So under the reforms of structures and processes, mainly 2 reforms are being asked for. Number 1 is the expansion of the Security Council, and second is the abolition of the veto power. Okay, and the second set of reforms that is being asked for is the expansion of the jurisdiction of the United Nations. So all these things I'm going to discuss in detail now. First, the reforms of structures and process, and under that the expansion of Security Council. Okay, so what is the issue of expansion of Security Council? That is to expand the membership of Security Council and to include new permanent members. Okay, so at present there are 5 permanent members. Demand is to make it increase this number of the permanent members in the Security Council. Okay, so what is the criteria of taking in new permanent members? The country should be a major economic power. It should be a major military power. It should be a substantial contributor to the UN budget. Okay, mean that the country should be contributing regularly and a big amount into the UN budget. Then should be a big nation in terms of population, should be representing world population to a good extent. Okay, the nation that respects democracy and human rights. Fine. And the country that will make the council more representative. Okay, now the criteria, if you see them separately, each criteria is valid. Okay, but where is the problem? The problem is that which criteria to be given more important. Okay, The country should be a major economic power. Japan is a major economic power, but it's not a major military power. Fine. Then a contributor to the UN budget, respect democracy and human rights. So which of these criteria is more important than other in the term of when you start selecting the member as a country as a permanent member? Okay, so if you see in terms of population, yes, India can be a big country in terms of population to be taken into the permanent membership, but then it is not a substantial contributor to the UN budget. Okay, and then from China you already had then from Asia you already had China as a member. Fine. So there are disputes regarding that which criteria is more important than the other. Second thing is that which country to be given a permanent seat. There are many countries which claim to become the permanent member, and in this race, number one name India. You all know as अब तो सबको पता है India is claiming to be the permanent member. उसके बाद आपका आ जाता है जर्मनी है, फिर ब्राज़ील है, साउथ अफ्रीका है, ओके, जापान है, all these nations. Fine. Iran hai. All these are big powers. So how will you select that which, और ये जो criteria है, the main problem is what will be the criteria to select. Okay, so the permanent membership, then we are going to discuss the other issue, that is the veto power. Now what is veto power? This is a special power that is given to the permanent members of the Security Council, and it relates to how the decisions are made. Okay, so there are two ways to make decisions in the Security Council. Number one way is that you make the decision by simple majority. Okay, so in this there are 15 members in the Security Council, so decision will be made by simple majority. Any 7 members agreeing to one thing, 8 members it will be agreeing to one thing would be accepted. Fine. The other criteria, the other way of making a decision is a special way, which is called the absolute majority. Also, I've told you, that is that these see if concurring vote of 12 members, which should inclusive of 5 P5 vote. Understood? That on all the matters that are very substantial in nature, decision will not be taken unless and until the permanent 5 agree to that. Even if one member out of that exercises a negative vote, then the decision will not be taken. This is called the veto provision. Okay, now why this provision was included? That is very important to understand. See, what was the purpose of forming the UN? The purpose of forming the UN was to prevent the Third World War. Okay, Second World War occurred because League of Nations failed. Why League of Nations failed? Because the big powers opted out of League of Nations. If you want to keep the big powers together in an organization, you have to give them some special power. Otherwise, if their national interest demands so, they would leave out from that organization. So if you have to keep them into the organization, some special powers have to be given. Number one thing. Number two thing, what is the way to prevent a war and prevent a world war? One feasible way is that world war occurs because the interest of the big powers collide. Okay, so US wants one thing and USSR wants another thing. They cannot see the resolution of the conflict through the United Nations, and they start the war in which all the countries get involved. This is how the Third War could start. Okay, Now, if you have to prevent this situation, what is the way out? The way out is that you make US and USSR go on the same side. Fine. So that is why this provision was included. On any substantial issue, the five big powers who have the capability to start a world war would remain on one side of the conflict. And that way, possibly the Third World War can be prevented. This was the logic of including veto provision into the United Nations. Okay, now it's being said that this veto provision is very undemocratic in nature, and that is why it should be abolished. Fine. So, first of all, is it practical? Will the big powers, the five big powers, ever accept there is special power to be taken away? And if it is done, will they still remain in the United Nations? And without them, the reality is that the United Nations will become useless. Okay, so you have to keep them, and that's why you have to give them veto power. Now, the expansion of jurisdiction. Many demands were made in September 2005. The creation of a peace building commission, international community to take responsibility in case the national governments are failing to protect their own citizens from atrocities. Then establishment of a human rights council, agreement to achieve millennium development goal, condemnation of terrorism in all its form, creation of democracy fund, agreement to wind up the trusteeship council. This is already done. The last one is already done. Now this is regarding the expansion of the jurisdiction. Again, the problems are regarding what peace building commission will do, because it cannot, UN just can't intervene in each and every issue that is related with the peace in the world. It doesn't have the capability of doing so much. Okay, then how much the countries can intervene in this matter also. Fine. Then Human Rights Council, so many countries in the world are so poor. Despite this, the Human Rights Council is doing a great job. It's operational since 2006. Millennium Development Goal, again, many countries in the world today are very less developed right now. First, there is a challenge of bringing them to a respectable standard of living. And condemnation of terrorism, what things will be included? First, it is very difficult to define terrorism. There has been a division in the world regarding good terrorism and bad terrorism at present, to which India is opposing very vehemently that terrorism is terrorism, nothing is good or bad. Okay, so first of all, to define terrorism and then try to arrive at a solution of it. Then creation of democracy fund. All these things are very complicated in nature, and that is the reason, see, the talks on the reforms started in 1992. And right now it is 2020. So many years the discussions are just going on in the United Nations and no result. There is no final solution to this problem. Okay, तो ये है सारा इशू रिफॉर्म से रिलेटेड, बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक है आपके एग्जामिनेशन के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से, एंड सिंस इट इज गिवन इन टू मच डिटेल इन द बुक एंड यू स्टूडेंट्स फाइंड वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू अंडरस्टैंड इट ऑल्सो, तो इतना तो आपको आंसर में लिखना ही पड़ेगा. इसमें से भी आप जो कंटेंट शॉर्ट कर सकते हैं वो कर लीजिएगा, बट चाहे कोशिश करिएगा कि इसमें से कुछ और भी ज़्यादा कट डाउन ना किया जाए. Okay, so thank you for watching this, and take care. Bye.